Hi Achievers, hope you're doing really well. Please kindly support me through all my means and please kindly ensure that you are posting your doubts here in the comment section if at all you have any. So today we are going to look into the poem on Fire and Ice written by Robert Frost. Fire and Ice. Let's enter into the poem. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. For what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So here he points out the concerns of destruction in terms of fire and ice. Here, the school of thought goes as Robert Frost is much worried about the world war and he feels very bad and really destructed because of this kind of a the war and the entire community of the world, especially the human community, and the kind of destructions that they bring in to the other aspects as well. So here he points out that fire and ice, he just points out that the fire, the connotations of fire or the characteristics of fire, such as the greed, conflict, the anger or the fury, the cruelty, lust and avarice. These kinds of connotations or characteristics of fire, it says, would really bring in a kind of a difference of opinion among people and thereby kindle the much of a dangerous destructions in the world. So he just points out that some say the world will end in fire. From what I have tasted of desire, so he points out whatever I have tasted of desire. So everybody wants post, everybody wants power, everybody wants money, and everybody would like to rule the world. So in such cases, he just points out that I hold with those who favor fire. So he says definitely the elements of fire, the concern or the connotations of fire such as the greed, conflict, fury, cruelty, lust and avarice will bring in a higher much destruction to the world. In the second stanza, he just points out that if it had to perish twice, suppose if I say the world had to get destroyed because of another element as well. In such case, it is the ice. So he says, I know enough of hate as well. So the connotations of ice, insensitivity, coldness, intolerance, indifference, rigidity, and hatred can also bring in much of a destruction that is equally as worst as that of the fire element as well. So he says this, it is also, ice is also great. So be it fire or ice, he just points out that through the short poem with an in-depth meaning that every concern of differences, every concern of anger, every concern of greed, every concern of intolerance, hatred will only bring in a difference and the lookout for money, power, the ruling aspects. So everybody wants to rule the world. When everybody wants to rule the world, definitely it will have a kind of a negative impact when they have these aspects of greed, lust, the cruelty in terms of coldness, avarice, indifference. So all these elements of fire and ice. So he just cautions the people in the world that if at all we are behind these aspects of fire and ice connotations, definitely the world will end very soon. As I said, if here are the connotations of fire and ice: the greed, conflict, fury, cruelty, lust, and avarice. These are the elements of, or rather, the connotations of fire. So, as you know that, if at all you know that, what is a greed? So, anything that we expect too much beyond our limit is greed. Conflict, you have a difference of opinion in terms of the in a very angerous way or rather the in a very cruel way, then it brings in the conflict. Fury, the anger that we really create in ourselves against anyone So that's very, when it comes to cruelty, lust, you all know cruelty is the extraordinary thing that really could bring in the kind of destruction to the one who really has it in their heart. Lust is nothing but the illegal desire, and avarice. Avarice is nothing but the extreme greed for wealth and material, or the material greed. So these are the connotations of fire. When it comes to ice, the insensitivity, nobody is much bothered about others. They are all selfish enough. So that selfishness, or rather the insensitivity to others' problems. Coldness, nobody is worried about the concern of if at all the kind of others are appreciable. So if at all others are reaching greater heights, we need to have the concern of appreciating them. But we never do that. We really have the coldness inside us. If at all he can do it, then definitely even I can do it, and I am the only best. In such cases, definitely the coldness would come up, with the concern of intolerance, the indifference which will really pick up, and the hatred that fixes in our mind. So these are the connotations of fire and ice. Moving to the poetic devices used in the poem, if you could look into the poem, the assonance which would be used in the poem. Assonance is nothing but the sound of the vowels. So the vowel sound that is being used is only assonance. So here in this poem, Fire and Ice, actually the assonance has been used in the lines of those who favor fire. So in the lines of those who favor fire, so the O sound seems to be repeating. Thereby, you can take in the concernation of assonance here. And similarly, you can go for the concern of alliteration. Next that we could look into is alliteration. So alliteration is nothing but the continuation of the uh, consonant sounds in the beginning of a word. So that is alliteration. So alliteration is also been used. So if you could look into alliteration, the word will, favor, fire. So these, the FF sound, the WW sound, it can also be taken into the consideration of alliteration. Imagery, if you could look into, with the help of the words of the poet, we can imagine what level of destruction that is possible. So that is why the poetic device imagery is used. And if at all you look into the poem, the third line, if you could look into, and the sixth and the seventh line, these lines do not have any punctuation towards the end of the line. So in such cases, this it is called as the enjambment that has been used, because it means that we need to take the meaning of the first line along with the next line as well. So that's enjambment. Also you can see the personification that is also being used. So he says that the fire will bring in the destruction, ice will bring in destruction. So here is as though they are like human beings or having a human character, and thereby they are bringing in the concern of differences. And the last but not the least, the poetic device that's been used is anaphora. What is anaphora? Nothing but a special type of repetition. What is a special type of repetition? If a particular word is repeated as a first word in lines, then it is called as anaphora. So here you could look into the word I. So I hold, I think. So here this concern of anaphora is also being used. Similarly, in this line, the I think, I know. Here it is a repetition. It is the general repetition, not a special type of repetition. So that's the difference. If a general repetition, it will get repeated within the line itself. But when it comes to special repetition, as a first word, it will get repeated. In such cases only it is anaphora. So if you could look into the rhyme scheme, it is ABA. So ABA, if you could look into fire, ice, desire. So fire, ice, desire. So fire and desire go together, and the fourth line is also fire. So A. So that's why it's given as A. Now moving on, ice, ice twice, ice twice, again ice, suffice. These words are rhythmical with each other. So it's been given the B rhyme scheme. And when it comes to the C, if you could, hate, great. So that's your C. So that's why the rhyme scheme seems to be ABA, ABC and BCB. Okay. So I hope you have understood, children. Please kindly go through the poem line by line and ensure that you are having a better understanding along with the poetic devices used, because the CBSE board will be really working on the questions which are related to the poetic devices as well as the nuances of the poem. Okay, so all the very best, dear children. Hope you understood the poem. Please kindly keep me posted in case of any doubts. Thank you, children.